Hey everybody, welcome to this special on Uranus going retrograde in Taurus. This happens on the 6th of September at 5:52 am this year 2025, and Uranus stays retrograde in Taurus until the 4th of February at 2:33 am 2026, and it also stays in its pre-shadow period to about April. Well, I'll tell you exactly when in a bit, so let's not jump ahead of myself, eh? I'm a Mani, I'm a karmic, holistic, astrological life coach, and I like to go in depth in all that I do, and all of my interpretations, especially when it comes to Venus, Mercury, Sun transits and everything really, are based on Vedic astrology, which is based on where the planets or the luminaries, which are the Sun and the Moon, are any given time in the sky. And all times are in GMT time as well. So yeah, thanks for listening. And yeah, so Uranus retrograde is happening this year in the 8th degree of Taurus, which has the Sabian symbology of a sleigh without snow. So I'm going to tell you all that means on the symbolic level in a short while. So in terms of the timeline, it entered its pre-shadow phase. Now this is the time when, Uranus energy is starting to turn inward. It goes retrograde on the 6th of September, goes direct on the 3rd of February, and then it still stays in its post-shadow, which is like, it's going direct, yes, but it's still sort of like coming out of that retrograde shadow, and it stays there until the 21st of May. So yeah, I'll talk a bit more about that in depth in a bit. So the aspects that Uranus is making as it goes retrograde this year, and these aspects are going to influence the whole 5 months Uranus is in retrograde. So we've got Venus making a quintile, and this brings creative innovation in our values, so thinking about how we can change our values. We have Saturn making a sextile to Uranus, so this brings paradigm shifts, switch up the energy to be revolutionary and more structured in our plans. Uranus also makes a sextile to Neptune, and this gives us visionary breakthrough potential to look to the future and make changes. Uranus also makes a trine to Pluto, and this allows us to transform how we use technology. And Uranus also makes a quintile. Now quintile is nice sort of energy, so it's making a quintile to Venus and also to the Moon's north node, and this allows evolutionary creative genius, so for us to grow into creative genius. And it also makes a conjunction with the midheaven, so with the 10th house, so it allows us to make big changes in our career. So in terms of the energetic frequency, it is allowing a sort of reset energy, and it's the electric shock, so sudden changes may force us to change it into innovation, and this can meet the stubborn resistance of us wanting to stay in our comfort zone in traditional paths of doing things, and it creates a perfect storm for breakthrough or breakdown in our material world, our foundations, our routines, our blueprints, our roots, our heritage, our family belief systems, the belief systems that we've come to believe in, the way that we express our individuality as well. But in terms of that Sabian symbol, imagine trying to sled down a hill without any snow, or drive a car without any tyres, and that's precisely the energy Uranus is serving up as it goes retrograde this September. So it isn't just any planetary pause, it's an astrological equivalent of hitting the brakes on our, revolution, our switch up plans, our changes in our beliefs that has been building steam since May 2025. And Uranus and the universe here is essentially saying, hold up, let's reconsider this whole innovation thing before we completely transform everything. So it's wanting you to rethink if you've began thinking about changes. Maybe you've been changing a lot of things. It wants to rethink, are you doing the right things? If you have not been changing, it wants you to think about changing, and it wants us basically to transform everything we thought we knew about security and stability, turning everything we thought we knew about progress completely on its head, reminding us that we need to change our plans at any time. So it's always ideal to have at least 2 plans, a plan A and B, right? And although we may have all the right equipment for our journey, i.e. the sleigh, the sleigh is what you need for snow, but if there isn't snow, how can we use it, So we need to completely reimagine our approach. So maybe you've prepared for a situation to be harder than it is or easier than it is, and you may have the tools, you may have to think about using different skills, a different way, a different approach. You may be in a relationship which you thought was going to last forever, but you may need to let that go in order to grow, So it's all about rethinking what you think you need. And as I said, it's making a conjunction with the midhaven at 0.55 applying. So this is pretty tight, and this is going to influence the whole 5 months Uranus is in retrograde. So this shows our public persona and career path are about to undergo some, rather deep next level internal restructuring, and the energetic frequency vibrates with innovative adaptation, being flexible of our creativity, being more resourceful with that and all the tools we have. And, in England we have this saying, making do when circumstances don't match our expectations. So yeah, you may not have all you need, but it's about, making the best use of what you have, getting creative about how you can use the resources you have. And there's also a stellium to Leo with the Sun, Mercury in the ascendant, and this is, allowing us to really make changes in our communication, how we project ourselves onto the world and how we use our ego, And we also have Saturn and Neptune in retrograde in Pisces, and Chiron retrograde in Aries, and Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. So it's like having an astrological orchestra who has decided that it's time for us to review, revise and revolutionize everything we understood about stability, the things we need in our life, getting outside of our comfort zone, making the plans, thinking about how we can do this more, innovation, newness and genuine progress. What do we need to change in our sleep habits, our eating habits, our relationship habits, our thought habits to really reach our goals and to make progress in life? This is basically what this energy is wanting us to do. So now I'm just going to talk about the retrograde cycle, pre-shadow, post-shadow, explaining what this actually means in a bit more depth. So as I said, the cycle began when Uranus entered its pre-shadow phase on the 20th of May, and this was sort of like, the preparation stage, whispering questions about everything we considered as solid and reliable in our life, rather like preparing for a winter journey, only to discover the map, environment, areas has completely transformed. So like I said, you've already made plans. How can you use a sleigh without snow? How can you drive a car without wheels? So this shows the need for us being flexible and being creative. So you may have noticed from May until now that you've already had to make adjustments in your plans. And when Uranus goes retrograde, we may have all the right equipment for one type of journey, only to discover we need to completely reimagine our approach. It wants us to examine our innovative impulses, our change impulses inwardly, questioning whether our changes truly serve practical needs and long-term stability. When Uranus is in retrograde from September 2025 to February 2026, it wants us to, reconsider, because Uranus is basically travelling backwards through the degrees it's already covered, revisiting breakthroughs and our revolution, our change impulses with mature wisdom. It's about fine-tuning, refining your progress ideas, ensuring they're grounded in long-term reality rather than just short-term theatrical possibilities. Can you apply what you're learning, whether it be spiritual, intellectual, technological, into day-to-day life? Is it practical? These are the main questions you want to be asking yourself, and allowing yourself to find creative alternatives when usual methods, your usual routine and techniques, ways of communicating, etc. don't match the current conditions. And as Uranus goes direct on the 3rd of February, we can come out more mature, grounded, especially in how we approach innovation, and we can get ready if we haven't started already, because some of you, especially if you've been born with Uranus retrograde, may decide to start making changes while Uranus is retrograde from September 2025 to February 2026. But if you don't, February 2026 the 3rd onwards is time for you to implement any revolutionary ideas that you thought about over those 5 months, whilst maintaining stability, security in the day-to-day routine, making those small changes day to day. And as Uranus exits its post-shadow on the 25th of May, it wants us to continue with thinking forward, remaining grounded, and creating lasting beneficial change rather than dramatic disruption. Change for change's sake, change just to cause, look at me sort of like energy. So ultimately, it's giving us, Uranus retrograde this year, the profound gift of revolutionary patience and practical innovation. So now I'm going to do the astrological breakdown, talking about how it affects our finances and all of that good stuff, and how to holistically use this energy in real life. So Uranus in Taurus resembles a master inventor who suddenly stops the workshop assembly line to redesign the blueprint completely. It's asking us to do some serious self-reflection before our ideas can truly serve ourselves and the collective good, right? It increases our ability to refine, to change our ideas, to change our day-to-day habits, our relationships, our communication patterns. It gives us a deeper understanding of how we can practically apply changes, innovative thinking, and it allows us to have breakthrough insights through introspective, self-reflective analysis, and we can just be more, grounded when doing things that are futuristic, and it gives us the wisdom to change our methods when circumstances change, rather than being stubborn and be like, no, this is the way I want to do it, I'm going to do it this way, even if the environment and external resources are not there and showing you need to change your plans, right? We can become more resourceful, who, allowing ourselves to find creative solutions, even when conventional approaches don't apply. But negatively, we can become frustrated when there's delays in our progress, and we can overthink technological solutions. We can resist unnecessary changes in our established systems. Internal conflicts can happen as well between the desire for stability and the need for innovation, change, and we can just face disruptions in our financial or material security that can just make us feel unstable, So it's best to try and stay grounded, and if you are in debt or finances seem uncertain, try and save if you can, or spend less, or think of ways to increase your income in a healthy way. Don't get to burn out and run yourself ragged in the pursuit of money and stuff, but think about what you can do to deal with these unexpected things that may happen in your financial or material security. The best use of this energy is to learn to find creative solutions when usual methods don't match, the current conditions. Refine plans, be open to futuristic ideas, find alternative approaches to achieve your goals. use meditation, grounding, journaling, which can help you keep track of your ideas, spend time in activities that require creative problem solving and critical thinking to help you deal with any limited resources, whether this is time or money, and develop patience with internal restructuring, self-reflection. You may be dealing with, heavy emotions inside, and just remember that things often get a bit crazy before major breakthroughs, so to keep on going through any failures or through any unexpected changes. So Uranus is the planet of evolution in astrology, sudden insights, technological advancement, and gives us the impulse to trigger the motivation to break free from limited routines, allowing us to think outside of the box, to walk our own path instead of following. It rules Aquarius, and in some systems, the one I follow, co-rules Saturn as well, and it brings humanitarian vision, scientific thinking and progressive ideas, and the ability to see far into the future, constantly pushing us to upgrade and liberate ourselves from all that holds us back. And Taurus is ruled by Venus, and this symbolises in astrology practical stability, material security, so second house, and Uranus rules the 11th house, right? So yeah, Taurus rules sensual pleasure as well, artistic appreciation and aesthetic appreciation, and steady methodical progress. Taurus is a grounded, reliable, patient energy and deeply connected to the physical reality and natural rhythms. It's the sign that builds things that last, and as Uranus moves retrograde in Taurus, it combines revolutionary energy which can be channeled through practical, methodical review, creating opportunities to develop innovations that are both brilliant and workable, progressive and long-term, rather like having a brilliant inventor who suddenly decides to test every component thoroughly before releasing their creation, ultimately creating much more reliable and valuable innovations, right? So in terms of the financial meanings, it gives us creative solutions to financial challenges when traditional approaches don't work, allows us to be more innovative in our investment strategies and flexible to changing market conditions. It gives us breakthrough insights about alternative income sources. It allows us to manage our resources and our sort of like spending, saving, income outgoings during uncertain times, but negatively can lead to financial losses from forcing outdated investment strategies, resistance to adapting financial plans when circumstances change, over-investment in innovative projects that lack practical grounding. It can bring anxiety about financial security during the necessary adaptation, change, switch up periods, Politically, it can lead to political innovations, leaders adapting to progressive ideals, to practical circumstances, breakthrough solutions to social problems through creative flexibility, revolutionary policies that work within existing systems, and the wisdom to modify to change approaches when public conditions change as well. But negatively, it can lead to political frustration when progressive ideals meet practical resistance. It can lead to us forcing changes without adequate flexibility and a resistance to change in political strategies when circumstances change, and this can lead to social unrest when innovation meets traditional resistance, because on the whole us humans don't like change, right, when we fear the new. In terms of the materialistic social collective meanings, it allows us to adapt to progressive ideas, especially when it comes to meeting the needs of our community or family. It can lead to collective creative problem solving when resources are limited. breakthrough solutions to our problems in social programs, and us being able to modify our wisdom when conditions change. Negatively, it can lead to social resistance to necessary changes in community programs, collective frustration when innovative social ideas don't immediately work, a tendency to abandon valuable social innovations when they require modification, and potential community conflicts over resource allocation. Psychologically, it can lead to increased psychological flexibility and adaptive thinking. We can have breakthrough insights about accepting limitations as creative challenges, there to improve our resilience, strength and courage and confidence, and being able to have that resilience when circumstances bring unexpected changes, and just the wisdom to change our approach when conditions change. Negatively, it can cause psychological stress from constant adapting to changing circumstances. It can bring anxiety when familiar methods don't work. There can be resistance to changing established psychological patterns. There can be issues with our identity, like questioning who we are, where we're going, and all of that, especially when we need to change and conditions change. On the esoteric, hidden meanings level, it brings spiritual lessons about divine timing and being flexible in our wisdom, the deeper understanding of how limitations can catalyze innovation, and the increased ability to find spiritual meaning in unexpected circumstances. Also gives us the recognition that apparent obstacles often redirect us towards better solutions, but negatively, it can add to spiritual frustration when unexpected practices don't bring, the results that we want. It can also lead resistance to spiritual lessons that require us to be more flexible, and it can just lead to spiritual bypassing of practical limitations. This can add to confusion about divine timing when circumstances require unexpected changes. In terms of the symbolic, emotional, creative meanings, it can lead to breakthroughs, allowing us to work through limitations and seeing them as creative, artistic challenges rather than things that are stopping us. It can increase our emotional resilience through us being adaptive. It can lead to breakthroughs in our creativity and allowing ourselves to work within practical constraints. So the conditions may not be right for our creativity, right? But we're like, forget it. I'm just going to do what I need to do. Modifying our creative approaches when circumstances change, but it can lead to creative frustration when our artistic visions meet practical limitations. There can be a tendency to abandon creative projects when they require us just to change the way that we approach, and it can just be emotional resistance to modifying our creative approaches, our methods, and we can get like that. We can get precious about our work and our creatives. If you're a writer or graphic designer or anything creative, right? The woodwork person, carpenter, that's it. So we have to just watch out for creative blocks when our familiar methods don't work, and just think about changing our approach, Now I'm going to talk about the aspects in more depth that's affecting Uranus as it goes retrograde. So Venus is quintile to Uranus, is separating, completing its influence. So this says that we're finishing a period where artistic innovation and revolutionary love created breakthrough that were beautiful, but positively, it increases the integration of our artistic creativity with innovative technology, breakthrough relationship moments through creative flexibility, revolutionary approaches to beauty and harmony that work practically, a natural ability to create artistic solutions to revolutionary challenges, but negatively, it can lead to disappointment in our creative changes and a tendency to miss practical applications of innovative insights, and we can just lose momentum. So it's very important to, take it step by step as you create things or find solutions to your problems. Be gentle with yourself. This is quintile energy. You'll feel this within. You may feel less motivated within to, think creatively, to get outside of your comfort zone, to adapt to changes, so just watch out for that. Saturn, though, making a sextile to Uranus, is bringing harmony. It is, because it's separating, indicating we're moving away from a period where structured wisdom and revolutionary insights work together productively. But positively, it allows us to integrate our disciplined spiritual wisdom with innovative practical solutions and the ongoing ability to ground revolutionary ideas into structured reality, which lead to lasting benefits from combining traditional wisdom with progressive innovation. And we can take a mature approach to implementing breakthrough insights, but negatively, it can lead to a gradual loss of supportive energy that helped us balance structure with innovation, and this can lead to us returning to excessive inflexibility or ungrounded revolutionary thinking, and we can just have a difficulty maintaining productive balance between tradition and progress, right? Uranus makes a trine to Pluto, so it's applying this energy, so it shows that transformation can receive tremendous support, so counteracting the negative influences of Saturn sextile Uranus and the quintile to Venus, right? Allowing for us to have breakthrough solutions to our collective healing and regeneration, rejuvenation, feeling more energized and being able to transform the habits or thoughts or relationships on the deep level that we want to change, leading to changes in our routine, adding to our natural ability to, change our routine and systems and organizations in a way that supports our long-term transformation, right? But negatively, the intensity of this energy can lead to us feeling overwhelmed if things and change happen too quickly, and it can just lead to us feeling frustrated and kind of, the changes to plans may disrupt us in a way that we may find it hard to come back from. So it's very important to stay as grounded as we can at this time. So Uranus's quintile to the Moon's North Node brings creative tension between the urge for personal freedom and the collective direction of our life paths. And again, it reminds us we need to be open to new, innovative solutions. It allows us to reflect on how our unique contributions can align with our broader life goals and the life goals of the collective. It's a time to embrace, be open to unconventional ideas that can lead to personal growth and collective advancement. Uranus's conjunction to the midheaven, which is at 0.55, applying, so this really influences us over the next 5 months, bringing a powerful surge of energy, allowing us to think about the way we project ourselves as social mass we wear and how we can become more authentic, and also our career goals, so we can have sudden insights or changes in our professional lives. It's a call to be more authentic in our career and break free from traditional expectations, and the energy of Uranus encourages us to redefine, rethink what success means to us and to get it on our own terms, and this can lead to unexpected opportunities. So great energy to start that podcast, launch that, side hustle, whatever it is. Don't think, so many people are already doing it. I believe everyone's got their niche. Everybody's got their group of people that will only listen to whatever it is you want to deliver to the world in the way that you're going to do it. So I believe in you. Go get it, A stellium in astrology refers to a powerful cluster of planets that are closely grouped together in the same sign, house or degree orb. So if a planet's in the 29th degree of Gemini, and then we've got one planet in the 7th degree of Cancer, because those planets, let's say Venus in the 29th degree of Gemini and Saturn in the 7th degree of Cancer, they can still be in a stellium because they are within a degree orb range, and that's how stellium can happen when one planet's in one sign and another's in another sign. That's because they're still within that 10 degree conjunction range that we need for stellium. So stellium can have positive and negative implications, like all things in life and astrology. So positively, a stellium increases the traits associated with the planets involved, the degree orbs involved, or the house involved, and creating a strong focus on those specific areas of our lives. It can signify intense determination, creativity, and give a deep sense of purpose in pursuing our goals, going after what we want. Negatively, it can bring challenges, a lot of challenges. It can amplify the negatives of all the planets, houses, or degree orbs involved, leading to an overwhelming amount of energy in these areas, and this can cause stress because of the imbalance of, too much of one energy surging on you, and so we may feel more pressure to live up to high expectations, or struggle with integrating the different energies represented by the planets within a transiting stellium. In terms of the stellium that I mentioned earlier, we've got the Sun, Mercury, and the Ascendant in Leo. So this allows us to focus on our self-expression and creativity, and intensifies, the energy of confidence. So it brings us confidence, motivation, charisma, the ability to shine brightly in our plans, encourages us to communicate our ideas confidently. So it's a great time, to share your unique vision with the world. Don't think so many people are doing it already, as I said, that's the great trap of the world. It makes us think that there isn't room for us, but there's room for everybody. So ultimately, these aspects and lean stellium increases our ability to express our individuality, so we should use this energy as a chance to align our personal goals with our public identity, allowing for transformation and growth. In terms of the karmic lessons, positively, it's allowing us to learn to adapt our revolutionary impulses to practical circumstances, develop the wisdom about, divine timing in innovation, mastering creative problem solving when resources are limited, working with what we've got, rather than saying I ain't got this, I can't do that, saying, someone may have 1 million followers, you may not have money for marketing and all of that, but, go out there and try. Everyone has to start somewhere, and it allows us to understand that true revolution requires patience, adaptation, rather than dramatic disruption. Negatively, it can put the focus on us releasing attachment to specific outcomes for revolutionary ideas. So I was thinking, I have to have this amount of money, I've got to do it this way, I have to follow this famous person to get famous, or whatever it is you want to do. It's all about, going with the flow, letting go and letting the higher power or your higher self, or whatever it is you believe in, learning to be more humble when your plans require unexpected changes, and healing karmic patterns around resistance to flexibility. So, it's important to focus on developing innovative solutions, working within current circumstances rather than forcing changes that are not practical. Trust that flexibility and resourcefulness are forms of revolutionary wisdom. In terms of past life memories and dreams where we were problem solvers in challenging circumstances can come up, along with, us rethinking about times when us being creative and flexible led to breakthrough solutions. Past life experiences of successfully revolutionizing systems through patient, practical innovation, but we may also have memories of times when we failed due to lack of practical flexibility and not having the right plan in our revolutionary ideas. And past life experiences of being forced forced to abandon creative projects and new projects when circumstances change unexpectedly. So use any memories that come up to understand the difference between revolutionary wisdom and revolutionary impatience, learning to honour both ideals and practical limitations, So, working within the limitations, understanding that sometimes to be progressive we need to pause, we have to be still, staying in your own lane rather than comparing yourself to other people's journey. In terms of the collective karma, it can help us develop a more flexible approach to change and in a way that serves the collective good through resourceful problem solving when traditional methods don't work. But negatively, it can lead to a tendency for us to force revolutionary changes without adequate preparation, like we've seen a lot in, the world of the past 10, 20 decades. Social media and stuff has been good, but we weren't ready for it. It's caused lots of problems. It can be used for good. It's brought a lot of things together, makes life easier, yes, but it's also caused a lot of problems that are going to take us like decades, if not centuries maybe, to sort out, right, in terms of generational dysfunction and stuff. So it reminds us that we need to do the adequate preparation work. There can also be possible social conflicts when progressive ideals meet practical limitations. So it's important to use your increased ability to adapt and change and your revolutionary ideas to serve collective growth, helping others understand that true innovation often requires patient adaptation. You're slow, daily, step by steps. This is why I say get back up after every failure, and it's all about your daily habits. I've learned that myself, changing it slow by slow, and real change comes when, it's happening daily, right? Whether, sometimes you may say, oh, well, I can meditate for 1 hour, but you only do that once a month. It's so much better to meditate for 5 minutes each day or 2 minutes each day rather than 1 hour 1 year. If you understand, it's about building that consistent daily effort. So yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the Sabian symbols that are influencing us when Uranus goes retrograde. So as I said, Uranus is in the 8th degree of Taurus, and this has the Sabian symbology of a sleigh without snow, and this rules the cervical nerves in the human body, and it basically brings our attention to adapting to extraordinary, out of the expected conditions, environments, experiences. So it emphasizes the need for us to be innovative in our approach when our usual methods, our usual habits, routines, relationship patterns, thought patterns don't match current circumstances. So it wants us to be resourceful and use wisdom and creativity to change our techniques, our ways of doing things, our day-to-day habits when circumstances change, and allowing ourselves to work under these transformed circumstances by using revolutionary solutions. Jung would recognize this as the innovative adapter archetype, someone who finds creative solutions when conventional approaches become obsolete, when our comfort zone, our comfort techniques, our comfort ways of doing things become outdated, right? So it allows us to find alternative approaches, giving us that wisdom when expected conditions ain't available, but it can add to the frustration when our methods don't work and the tendency to force inappropriate solutions, and it can bring a resistance to changing established patterns and methods, and we can waste our resources on unsuitable approaches, and anxiety can come up, and depression and other things, because we can find it hard to adapt to unexpected conditions. So get help, do relaxation, meditation, tai chi, yoga, rebounding, going for walks, hugging trees, doing things to help you stay grounded in healthy ways, seek therapy, listen to self-help podcasts, read books, whatever it takes, be gentle with yourself, have chamomile tea or any other tea, just take some time out to relax. And yeah, it is scary change, right? But often change is what we need to move forward in our life. On the esoteric, occult, hidden meaning level, It's teaching us to detach from specific outcomes in terms of the spiritual lesson, mastery over adaptation and change as astrological intelligence and, psychological emotional intelligence, understanding that innovation requires releasing familiar methods, releasing our comfort zone, right, and recognizing that true change comes through being flexible in our responses. But negatively, we can have spiritual attachment to forms of progress, so we have to learn to trust in the universe's timing when it differs from our expectations, and understanding that apparent obstacles are often redirecting us towards better solutions in terms of how it influences our health. Emotionally, it allows us to build more emotional resistance and resilience through being flexible, but again, it can lead to anxiety when our comfort zone and its methods fail. Spiritually, it increases our spiritual flexibility and trust in divine timing, but negatively, it can lead to spiritual frustration when expected practices don't bring the same results. So maybe you're used to do meditation in a certain way, sitting in lotus position, but now you have to learn to meditate while listening to music and stuff, so instead of being frustrated, try and be flexible and change your approach to your spiritual practice. Physically, it wants us to look after our cervical nerves, and this will help benefit our mind-body coordination and flexible responses. So focus on our neck and upper spine health exercises, shoulder exercises, Psychologically, it can increase our psychological flexibility and creative problem solving, but it can lead to stress from the constant need to change, right? So it's important to develop multiple approaches to achieving your goals rather than, relying on just one single way of getting things completed. Practice meditation, increase flexibility, engage in creative problem solving with limited resources, develop patience with, the process, and that sometimes we will have to make unexpected changes, focusing on gentle neck stretches, proper posture awareness, stress reduction techniques, targeting neck tension, massage therapy for the upper spine and neck area, practices that increases mind-body connection like Tai Chi or gentle yoga, and it allows us to experience, just a different mindset, allowing us to follow through in our plans and methods and just be more flexible in our thinking if we're open to doing so, right? So now I'm going to talk about the following Sabian degrees. So we've got 5, right? We got Venus at the 20th degree of Cancer. That Sabian symbology are gondoliers in a serenade. This falls the superior pancreatico duodenal artery, and I do my best to trying to pronounce these things. I'm still learning to speak, so it's all good. And it wants us to allow our love to flow like music through emotional waters. Saturn's at the 6th degree of Pisces, and this Sabian symbology is officers on dress parade, and this falls the left collarbone bone, and it wants us to allow spiritual discipline to meet ceremonial order, so routine, right? So yes, be flexible, be spiritual, but also bring order to that. Neptune's at the 8th degree of Pisces, and this Sabian symbol is a girl blowing a bugle, and this rules the left talus, and it reminds us that to be innocent and let that innocent wisdom announce divine truth. Pluto's at the 8th degree of Capricorn. The Sabian symbology is birds in a house singing happily. This rules the lymph vessels of the knee, and it wants us to allow transformation, change, to bring happiness into structured spaces, so work routines, organisations and systems that are rigid, to be more flexible there, right? And the North Node's in the 25th degree of Aquarius, and the Sabian symbology is a butterfly with the right wing more perfectly formed, so using our right brain over the logic, right? Using our sort of creativity, and this rules the left tibialis anterior muscle in the human body, and it wants us to focus on evolutionary growth through balanced development. So Venus in Cancer, so skilled emotional navigation through artistic expression, and Saturn in Pisces wants us to be more disciplined in our spiritual authority, maintaining day-to-day routines, being, lucid, fluid, flexible in environments. Neptune in Pisces allows us to, speak pure divine communication through inner saint wisdom, so dealing with our inner child, doing things to please our inner child and thinking like a child, but still having our boundaries, not ignoring red flags, being assertive but just being more sort of flexible in our routines and allowing ourselves to do the things that bring joy and happiness. The North Node in Aquarius allows us to advance faster at some times and reminding us that development can happen unevenly at this time, and together these symbols allow us to be more creative in our emotional expression, be more disciplined in our spiritual expression, to be more divine in our communication, and be more open to the transformative power of laughter and happiness even when life is crap, learning to laugh at the crap and sift through the crap, and to be patient and be flexible. These Sabian symbols give us the increased ability to create beauty in emotional situations whilst maintaining spiritual discipline, allowing us to navigate relationship problems with respect and the natural ability to inspire through simple spiritual expression whilst regenerating systems, our energy, changing our routines. And it allows us to understand that growth happens in phases, with some gifts developing faster than others, and I've experienced this on my journey as well. So it's important to be gentle as we grow. A lot of us were born into dysfunction, and this doesn't mean to stay in toxicity or make excuses for it. Our past, our experiences with heartbreak, rejection, abandonment, and all of that, bullying, etc., are explanations of our problems, but they're not excuses, right? So, just allowing ourselves to be childlike and gentle and to find wholeness within ourselves. But negatively, these Sabian symbols can lead to us over romanticizing difficult situations while being spiritually inflexible, and oversimplify complex spiritual concepts through inappropriate informality, and just, be superficial when we're dealing with deep issues through creative expression, and there can be disruption of necessary structure and routine through uncontrolled natural impression. So it's important to be routined and to take our time as well. And there can be frustration with uneven spiritual development, and this can lead to impatience with evolutionary timing. So, being patient is really, really important here. In terms of the esoteric occult meanings, they allow us to have mastery over delivering and hearing divine messages without ego interference, and recognizing that true transformation can come through bringing joy and happiness into structured environments, and accepting the karmic evolution often involves periods of imbalanced development, while different aspects of our soul and personality mature, but we just need to watch out for spiritual bypassing of difficult emotions through artistic expression, so just saying, I'm just going to draw my emotions, which is good, draw, but don't forget the psychological processing, the thought, and that needs to go into it as well. We have to learn to distinguish, tell the difference between genuine divine inspiration and personal wishful thinking, and understanding the difference between healthy liberation, independence, and destructive rebellion, and releasing perfectionism that interferes with natural growth processes. In terms of health, all of these Sabian symbols allow us to integrate our emotional experiences through creative expression combined with spiritual discipline, increasing our spiritual balance and clear communication. It allows us to accept our physical and emotional development phases whilst avoiding digestive issues related to emotional stress or ankle instability from spiritual overwhelm. It increases spiritual spiritual flexibility in terms of our spiritual health through disciplined practice, pure spiritual communication, and maintaining childlike wonder and bringing joy into our spiritual practice. In terms of our physical health, we should focus on mindful eating, looking after our leg health through proper foot support, doing ankle exercises, leg exercises. We can look after our lymph vessels by drinking enough water and healthy food, and doing things to bring strength to our muscles. Psychologically, it can help us build more emotional resilience through being mature in our spiritual leadership abilities and creativity. We can have a clearer perception of our spiritual reality, and we can experience powerful healing through integrating happiness with responsibility, and we can just have the wisdom about working with the natural development processes rather than against it. So it's important to do things that help us process our emotions and our psychological and spiritual needs. Being consistent, now consistency is the key, right, with our spiritual practices, and practice clear spiritual communication when we're serving others for the highest good, finding ways to bring happiness to every part of our lives, right, even our work life, and to accept temporary imbalances during growth phases, and this can help us create beauty in our environment as we heal on the emotional levels, right? And engage in rituals that help us honor our life transitions and allow ourselves to become pure channels for our inner child and divine expression, and to practice transformation techniques while also holding on to our old spiritual practices but upgrading them, thinking about how we can make our routines spiritual or otherwise better. So in terms of looking after parts of our body, to look after Venus's pancreatal duodenal artery, mindful eating practices, gentle abdominal massage, stress reduction, that helps us look after our digestion, and eating foods that support pancreatic health. For Saturns, need to look after the left collarbone, proper foot support and balance, walking, meditation, exercise that strengthen foot and ankle stability. For Neptune's left talus, again looking after our ankles and doing balance exercises, spiritual grounding practices, and attention to proper foot and posture placement. For Pluto's knee lymph vessels, gentle lymphatic massages, rebounding, jumping, gentle exercises that support lymphatic drainage whilst they also protect our knee structure. And for the north nodes, left tibialis anterior, exercises that strengthen our shins muscles, stretching practices that increase our ankle flexibility, and activities that improve our balance, right? So ultimately, these Sabian symbols want us to integrate creative insights and accept imperfection as part of our growth, and to bring happiness in our day-to-day life, whatever we are doing. So now I'm going to talk about how Uranus retrograde influences our relationships. So in terms of our family relationships, it allows us to introduce progressive changes into our family dynamics gradually and practically, allowing us to find solutions to family problems through creative flexibility, and to use innovative approaches to family traditions, honouring both progress and heritage. Negatively, there can be resistance in our families to new approaches, especially new approaches to do traditional things. So maybe you always have Sunday dinner at 2:00 and there may be resistance having it at 4 or something like that, or something more deeper, the tendency to force changes on family members without adequate preparation, and this can lead to conflicts when progressive family ideas meet practical limitations. So use any increased flexibility abilities to introduce positive changes into family relationships slowly, gradually, step by step, respecting both the need for progress and the value of family stability. Friendships positively allows us to be more creative in our creative problem solving, allows us to maintain friendships even when circumstances change dramatically. It allows to break through solutions to friendship conflicts through creative adaptation, but negatively we can lose friends, especially friendships that can't adapt to the changes that happen. There can be a tendency to expect friends to immediately adapt and change to revolutionary ideas without adequate preparation, and this can lead to conflicts when progressive friendship ideals meet practical social limitations. So it's important to balance your innovative social ideas with respect for friends, needs for stability and slow change, using adaptive abilities to maintain valuable friendships while pursuing progressive social ideals. In terms of co-worker relationships, it can lead to an increased ability to introduce workplace changes gradually and practically, and solutions to work problems through creative teamwork. We can be open to new approaches to professional relationships that benefit everyone, and it allows us to naturally help colleagues change to changes in work circumstances and patterns as well. We can find ourselves becoming the go-to person for creative problem solving when traditional workplace methods, techniques, routines hit snags. Negatively, there can be conflicts over change and a tendency to push revolutionary workplace ideas without adequate preparation. So we just need to, this is key for all relationships, to make sure we give the right time scales for change to happen, right? A lot of the times, Uranus, when it's direct, wants to bring these changes fast, but in retrograde, we're being asked to slow down, have more patience. We can also have resistance from colleagues at work who prefer traditional work methods, and this can lead to frustration when innovative work solutions meet bureaucratic, outdated limitations. Some colleagues may find your adaptive approaches threatening to their established routines, or you may find, someone who wants new ways of doing things in the workplace threatening, So it's important to be open to things that improve workplace relationships and productivity, whilst respecting colleagues' need for stability and gradual follow through, and ultimately it's important when change is introduced into the workplace slowly rather than all at once. In terms of hookup relationships, it gives us the ability to be more flexible in our dating approaches when usual methods don't work in current social circumstances, allowing for innovative solutions to modern dating challenges and breakthrough insights about attraction and connection that work practically, and the natural ability to maintain authenticity whilst, being open to change. And we may discover more genuine connections through unexpected approaches, but negatively there can be confusion when traditional dating approaches don't work in current circumstances, and the tendency to force change without considering the practical social limitations, forcing new dating ideas, and this can lead to frustration when innovative romantic approaches are not immediately successful, and there can be resistance to adapting to dating strategies when circumstances change, and dating may feel even more unpredictable right now. So use increased flexibility to deal with modern dating challenges creatively whilst maintaining authentic self-expression and respect for others' boundaries and comfort levels. And remember that genuine connection happens through unexpected circumstances rather than forced romantic scenarios. Committed couples, it allows us to adapt relationship patterns when circumstances change, and gives breakthrough solutions to relationship challenges through innovative approaches, allowing for revolutionary insights about love that work practically in day-to-day life. But negatively, there can be conflict when one partner's changes requires significant flexibility and understanding from the other, and a tendency to force relationship changes without the proper communication and preparation. So use this transit to develop more flexible approaches in committed relationships that honour both individual changes and growth and relationship stability, and communicate openly about changes, and just be gentle and patient. Singles and those who are self-partnered, it allows us to create innovative approaches to single life, working practically in current circumstances. This can lead to breakthrough insights about self-partnership and independence, and lead to a revolutionary understanding of personal happiness that translates into your day-to-day life. Negatively, it can lead to frustration when innovative single lifestyle ideas meet practical social limitations. There can be a tendency to force revolutionary personal changes without adequate preparation, and there can be resistance to adapting personal lifestyle, with changing circumstances. So use this energy of Uranus retrograde to develop creative, practical approaches to single life, honouring both your need for independence and connection to community, and allow yourself to be open to maintaining and finding meaningful social connections. So in terms of career development, it allows us to have increased ability to be flexible in our career path when circumstances change, and can lead to breakthrough insights about our professional purpose, and increases our ability to work practically. But the career disruption can just lead to us feeling uncertain, not being able to adapt when, circumstances need it, and we can force career changes without preparation. So it's important to use our increased innovative abilities to revolutionize our career path slowly and practically, adapting our professional approach to current market conditions whilst maintaining our authentic professional wisdom and vision. In terms of our personal development, it can lead to a lot of increased and intense personal growth through us learning to be flexible when circumstances change, increases our ability to change personal patterns that no longer serve us, so destructive habits, excessive thinking, toxic ways of relating to others, toxic relationships and stuff like that can all be changed. But negatively, we can be confused when new self-improvement approaches don't immediately work as expected, and we can force personal changes without internal preparation. So it's important to think and reflect. This is what Uranus wants us to do with the 5 months. Be slow. Don't compare yourself to other people's journeys on or offline. Remember, this is your life. Focus on developing resilience and innovative problem solving as core personal development skills, and learn to be open to change and uncertainty as opportunities for creative growth. In terms of spiritual development, it can bring spiritual insights that are revolutionary, allowing us to be more practical in our spiritual practice, even when circumstances change dramatically, to remain consistent in our day-to-day meditation or other practices, whether it's 1 hour a day, 1 minute a day, helping us to understand our spiritual truth while practically living in the modern world, right? But negatively, it can lead to spiritual confusion, and when our new spiritual approaches don't immediately bring expected results, and there can be a tendency to force revolutionary spiritual changes without adequate grounding in practical reality. So use this transit to develop a more flexible approach to spiritual growth that can retain its essence whilst adjusting its methods to changing life circumstances, allowing yourself to be focused and be open to the flow. In terms of educational development, it increases our ability to adapt to new learning methods when traditional approaches don't work effectively. It leads to insights about knowledge that can be translated into practical application, and gives us the natural ability to teach others through creative and flexible methods. We can discover that unconventional learning paths actually suit our brain better than formal education ever did, but negatively we can experience educational frustration when innovative learning approaches don't immediately bring expected results, can lead to a tendency to abandon valuable educational opportunities when they require flexibility, especially flexibility to unexpected circumstances, can lead to conflicts with traditional education institutions when we want to change our approaches, and it can lead to resistance to modifying learning strategies when circumstances change. And it shows that educational disruption often comes before breakthrough understanding, so it's important to be open to educational approaches that are new, whilst maintaining respect for valuable traditional knowledge and approaches, methods, techniques, being flexible in our learning methods, while staying committed to continued growth and development. And remember that the most deep learning often happens through unexpected methods and circumstances, So now I'm just going to talk about the best things to do for each sort of personality or person type. So if you're more creative, it's great to start a creative project that requires innovative problem solving with limited resources, perhaps creating art from recycled materials, writing stories that adapts traditional narratives to modern circumstances, or developing creative business models, working within current economic conditions, So be open to limitations as creative motivators rather than obstacles, allowing resource limitations to trigger innovative solutions. And, you may find things that you may never have discovered with unlimited resources. So getting creative about your creativity, right? Professionals develop innovative professional solutions in your workplace and allowing yourself to change gradually through practical demonstration rather than revolutionary disruption, being more progressive in your workplace ideas, and use your increased flexibility to introduce workplace changes that benefit everyone whilst respecting existing professional relationships and company stability. Entrepreneurs create a business model that is flexible and innovative in its response to current market conditions, for finding creative ways to implement progressive business ideas, to follow through on them within existing economic and social routines, focus on developing innovative solutions, working within current market limitations rather than waiting for perfect conditions, using resource constraints as opportunities for creative business development, alternative healers, develop healing approaches that are flexible, create innovative wellness solutions that work practically for clients' current lifestyle and economic solutions, and combine ancient healing wisdom with modern technology, and find ways to make expensive treatments accessible through creative resource sharing. Use increased flexibility to serve clients more effectively by modifying healing approaches to meet their practical needs whilst maintaining their essential healing intention. The slay without slow energy shows that the most powerful healing often comes when we change our methods to what's exactly available rather than what we wish we had, Lovers find creative ways to express love and connection that are, adaptive to any practical limitations or changing conditions, create innovative romantic experiences that work within current circumstances and resources, transform limitations into opportunities for deeper intimacy and creative expression, focus on the essence of romantic connection rather than specific forms, allowing love to find creative expression through whatever resources and circumstances are currently available, and And remember that the most meaningful romantic moments often happen through resourceful creativity rather than expensive gestures, and limitations can actually deepen authentic connection. For singles, develop innovative approaches to single life, working particularly and practically in your current circumstances, creating fulfilling lifestyle patterns that are flexible, using your resources and the social conditions that are happening, while also maintaining your authentic self-expression. Use this time to master the art of flexibility, especially flexible independence, learning to create happiness and wholeness and connection through whatever circumstances life presents, rather than waiting for the ideal conditions. So in terms of questions that you can help yourself to help you focus on the things you need to focus on right now. In terms of your financial needs, you can ask, how can I change my financial strategies when traditional approaches don't work in current economic conditions? This is important because it helps us, being more flexible in our creative financial problem solving and work within practical limitations. In terms of our emotional needs, we can ask, what emotional responses am I ready to change when my usual patterns don't serve current relationship circumstances, so this transit increases our emotional flexibility, and it wants us to be more flexible in our responses. And this means that we have to be honest about our emotional patterns, especially the ones that need creative change, to help us be able to be more flexible and new in our emotional responses. If we don't have the time, we may think something in our head and think we're a certain way, but the way we actually react to circumstances is stopping our growth, So this question really helps us address that. In terms of our spiritual needs, we can ask, how can I adapt my spiritual practices when traditional approaches don't match my current life circumstances? And the importance of this is that it supports us being more flexibility in our approach to our divine and higher self connection, and it wants us to adapt our spiritual ideals and needs to current reality. In terms of our psychological needs, we can ask, what psychological patterns am I ready to change when my usual mental approaches don't serve current life changes? And because this transit increases our psychological flexibility and adaptive thinking, this requires honest evaluation of our mental patterns that may need innovative, adjustment during periods of, unexpected change. We can ask, how can I maintain psychological authenticity whilst adapting my mental approaches to changing personal and social circumstances? And this is important because Uranus Retrograde wants us to balance our authentic self-understanding with practical psychological flexibility, creating mental resilience that serves both personal truth and social effectiveness without losing our core identity, without losing ourselves, right? We can also ask ourselves what psychological limitations might actually be motivating innovative approaches to mental health and personal growth. And this is important because the sleigh without snow energy shows that apparent psychological obstacles often redirect us towards better mental health solutions, requiring reframing our challenges as opportunities for creative psychological development. In terms of our physical needs, we can ask, how can I adapt my physical health practices when traditional approaches don't match my current lifestyle and resources? And this is important because Uranus in retrograde wants us to be more flexible in our approaches to looking after our health and the mind, body and soul level, whether it be from our sleep, eating, exercise, patterns and practices. And it wants us to practically change our health ideals to current reality rather than waiting for the perfect fitness conditions. So it's all about making those small day-to-day steps to improve your health, right? And doing that research and listening to your body, and also meeting the needs of your mind and your higher consciousness, your soul, right? You can ask yourself what wellness insights may come out of the other side if I start forcing expected health outcomes and start adapting to what my body actually needs right now. And because this retrograde energy encourages us renewing our health and our body wisdom, right, it reveals authentic physical well-being. If we ask this question, it can help us, find out what we need to honor our physical limitations and capabilities, and then we can ask, how might my physical limitations actually be motivating innovative approaches to health and living, This is good to ask because it helps us find physical wellness through creative flexibility rather than forcing inappropriate health strategies by thinking, oh, well, this influencer does 100 push-ups a day. In order for me to be fit, I have to do the same. No, it's about finding the practices that are good for you. For some of us, it's gardening. For others, it's walking. Others, it's dancing. Others, it's jumping. Others, it's going on the rowing machine or bike machine or, mountain climbing, finding what works for you and being sort of like, focus on transforming apparent physical obstacles into opportunities for innovative wellness approaches, new routines that actually meet your needs, So, in conclusion, Uranus retrograde in Taurus presents us with the opportunity to look for innovative approaches and be flexible rather than be rigid and inflexible and just sticking to tradition and our comfort zone. It wants us to find new ways of getting things done. It asks us not to abandon our revolutionary plans and life changes, but to become more masterfully creative in how we implement them, how we do them within our current circumstances. And the challenges center on releasing attachment to specific outcomes or forms of progress whilst maintaining commitment to our progressive and new ideas and learning to find opportunity within limitation on our challenges and all of that, rather than waiting for perfect conditions. The opportunities are magnificent if we're open to them, if we are able to increase our resourcefulness, and we can find breakthrough innovations through practical constraints, and we can be adaptive in wisdom that can serve both our individual growth and collective evolution. So this asks us if we're ready to discover how our most brilliant innovations can find creative expression through whatever circumstances life presents us, and the astrological sleigh is perfectly equipped for this unexpected but ultimately more interesting journey. So be open to the unexpected, find creative solutions, believe in yourself, and know that it's never too late to begin again. So I'm Amani, your holistic karmic astrological life coach. This has been my very in-depth analysis of all things Uranus in Taurus 2025. Take care and see you next time.